So here's a thought. What if the problem isn't the message, but the soil it lands on? Jesus once told a story that gets right to the heart of this puzzle. A story where the seed is perfect, but 3 out of 4 soils fail to produce anything at all. Today, we're going to dive into this and figure out why so many people hear the word, but so few actually bear fruit.
You know, this is a phrase Jesus used all the time, and it's a really critical warning. It points to this huge idea. Just because someone is physically listening, it doesn't mean they're truly hearing. It's like there's a whole other level of understanding that's needed to actually let the message in.
And this is the core of our whole explainer. In the parable, the seed is the word of God, the message of the kingdom. And it's powerful, it's perfect, it gets sown everywhere. The one thing that changes, the variable that makes all the difference, is the condition of the human heart that receives it. It's all about the soil.
Now, to really get what's going on in this parable, we have to understand the timing. This wasn't just some random story Jesus told. This parable, right here in Matthew chapter 13, it marks a massive turning point in his public ministry and his whole style of teaching.
See, up until this moment, Jesus was teaching the crowds plainly. I mean, think about the Sermon on the Mount. It's super direct, super clear. But then in Matthew chapter 12, something big happens. The religious leaders of Israel officially reject him. They accuse him of working by demonic power. And from that exact moment forward, Jesus completely changes his approach. He stops speaking plainly to the crowds and starts teaching in parables.
So why the sudden switch? Well, it was totally intentional, and it had 4 specific goals. First, for his disciples, the parables were a way to illustrate truth, which he then explained to them in private. Second, and this is so important, they were meant to hide the truth from those who had already rejected the light they'd been given. Third, this actually fulfilled prophecies from Isaiah and the Psalms. And finally, Jesus used them to start explaining this brand new concept, what he called the mystery kingdom.
And all of that brings us to the very first, and you could say the most foundational of all these kingdom parables, the parable of the sower. It's a simple story about a farmer throwing seed on 4 different kinds of soil, which, as we'll see, represent 4 very different kinds of human hearts.
And here's the part that's just incredible. Look at the weight Jesus himself puts on this story. He actually says to his disciples, if you don't get this parable, how are you going to understand any of the others? So this isn't just one story out of many. He's telling us it's the master key that unlocks everything else he's about to teach concerning this phase of God's kingdom.
So the first soil is the wayside. Think of a hard, compacted footpath where the seed just bounces off, it can't get in. Jesus says this is the person who hears the message of the kingdom but has 0 understanding of it. And because there's no understanding, the wicked one, Satan, comes and just snatches it away immediately. The message never even had a chance.
Okay, next up is the stony ground. This soil is really shallow, with a layer of solid rock just beneath the surface. So the seed sprouts up super fast with all this enthusiasm. This represents someone who hears the word and receives it with joy, but it's a totally emotional, surface-level response. They have no real root, no deep foundation in the word itself. So the moment things get tough, when tribulation or persecution comes along because of that belief, they wither and fall away just as quickly as they spring up.
Now, the third soil. This one has potential. The seed actually takes roots and a real plant begins to grow. But here's the problem. It's not alone. Thorns are growing up right alongside it, and they eventually just choke the life right out of the plant, so it never produces any fruit. This is the entangled heart. This person hears the word, there is life, but it gets stifled. And Jesus is very, very specific about what does the stifling.
He says the thorns are 2 things, the cares of this world and the deceitfulness of riches. Notice, it's not about open rebellion or some big sin. It's about distraction. Life just gets busy, worries pile up, the chase for wealth and comfort becomes the #1 priority, and all these things just slowly squeeze the word right out of a person's life until it's completely unfruitful.
And then finally we get to the good ground. This is the one. This is the productive heart. The person who hears the word, genuinely understands it, accepts it, and because of all that, bears fruit. Out of all 4 soils, this is the only one that actually produces a harvest.
But even here, there's this fascinating little detail you might miss. Jesus lists the yield in descending order, some 100-fold, then 60, then 30. Now, on one hand, this shows that even among true, fruitful believers, our productivity can vary. But that declining order has also led a lot of people to wonder if it might be hinting at a sort of spiritual decline as our current age goes on. It's an interesting thought.
So, what does this all mean for us right now, today? Well, these 4 soils aren't just about 4 types of individuals.
They actually paint a much bigger picture of the entire era we're all living in, an era Jesus called the Mystery Kingdom.
So what is this mystery kingdom? It's the phase of God's plan that wasn't really laid out in detail in the Old Testament. It's this in-between age, between Jesus' rejection as king when he first came and his return as king at his second coming. Probably the easiest way to think about it is the word Christendom, the whole sphere of Christian influence in the world, which, as we all know, is a big mix of both genuine believers and people who aren't.
And Jesus doesn't stop there. He explains this even more in the very next story, the parable of the tares. It's about good wheat and fake imitation weeds growing together in the same field. The field, he says, is the world. The good seed, that's the sons of the kingdom, true believers. But the enemy comes and sows tares, the sons of the evil one. And for this entire age, they just grow side by side. It's only at the very end, at the harvest, that they'll be sorted out.
So this is the timeline we are on. The kingdom started in this mystery form right after the king was rejected. That means we, right now, are in that long period of sowing, the entire church age. And it's all leading up to the second coming, which is the final harvest, when the true and the false are finally and forever separated.
So this whole parable, this entire framework for understanding the age we live in, it really all comes back to one very personal question for each of us.
See, the question isn't just, have you heard the word? Think about it. 3 of the 4 soils heard it. The real penetrating question this parable leaves us with is this: what kind of soil are you? Because the seed is always good, the word is always powerful, but the condition of our own heart is what will determine everything, whether that seed gets snatched away, withers under pressure, gets choked out by the world, or if it will actually truly bear fruit.